Hey guys, it's Shadowkisses, and you're probably wondering why I'm on this channel. Madam actually asked me a while ago if I'd be interested in making a video for her channel while she's abroad in Italy, and of course I agreed because I want to help her out so she doesn't have so much stress while she's on vacation. So she asked if I would be willing to talk about a eerie slash unnerving experience that I had when I was growing up, and I said heck yes. So let's go ahead and get started on it. And it's not so much as like a spooky, scary story, more of it's just kind of unnerving and creepy to think about. So when I was about 2 years old, my mom and dad had finally saved up enough money to be able to afford to buy their own home, which was like a big deal because we'd been living with my grandparents up until this point. Nothing really seemed to be out of the ordinary. It was like a pretty old house and it was kind of run down, but that was to be expected given the neighborhood that we were in. Like, a lot of the houses in that area were pretty run down and old, so it wasn't that big of a deal. The only thing that really stood out was on the second floor there was this loft area. When you came up the stairs, the loft area surrounded the entire staircase, and on the left-hand side when you went up the stairs there was this chimney that led to nowhere. It didn't even go up through the ceiling, and it didn't have like the little chimney on the outside. It was just the chimney on that part of the second floor, and we didn't know where the actual fireplace was on the first floor, if that makes any sense. We quickly moved in, and my dad started to fix up the place because he was a carpenter at the time. And it took several years to be able to get the house up to standard, I guess, but I didn't really mind. And basically, a couple years ago, my mom started telling me about how I would interact with something that wasn't there, and that was only I could see what it was, and I would talk to it. She figured it was my imagination, or it was an imaginary friend, but I highly doubt that that's what it was given what I know now. So yeah, I was particularly fascinated with the wall in the dining room that divided the dining room, which was on the right side when you walk into the kitchen, from the hallway that led out into the laundry room, which was on the left side. And the dining room was always really small because that wall was there, and it always really felt out of place. But basically, I would sit there and I would chatter on to my imaginary friend until I was about 4 or 5. And most of the time that I was chattering with my imaginary friend, or talking to it, or playing with it, it was usually around that dining room wall, and that does matter later on in this story. And around that same time, my younger sister was born, and I had to give up my bedroom, which was the downstairs bedroom, which we only had 2 downstairs, and then there was that office space that was connected to the loft upstairs. So I had to move from my downstairs bedroom, give that up to my sister, and then move up into the office area that my dad converted into a bedroom for me. And even as a young child, I could sense that the atmosphere in the upstairs was way different than it was downstairs. The downstairs area felt really warm and inviting and friendly, and then the upstairs felt kind of dark and oppressive, and something was angry up there, if that makes any sense. So a few years go by and nothing really major happens. My dad's been working on fixing up the place, and he's gotten most of the downstairs done, but then he decides that it's time to kind of open up the dining area to kind of make it feel like it's more of a flowing and open environment downstairs instead of just this weird little dining room that made no sense to have a wall. If I could show you the layout, and I really wish I still had pictures from my old house, then I would show you that it didn't make any sense having that wall in the dining area, because it looked wrong. But basically, it took him a couple days to get everything set up, and he had to basically section off that part of the house with plastic sheeting. I don't know if you guys have ever seen home improvement shows, but when they take down a wall, especially in an older house because of the risk of asbestos and that sort of stuff, they basically put up this plastic sheeting in doorways and they tape the area closed. That way dust particles and asbestos particles don't get everywhere. But once he had everything set up, he started tearing into the wall. It took a little bit of time to actually get to where he could see what was inside of it, and he didn't find asbestos, let's just say that. Instead of finding normal wall insides, I guess you would call them, he found an old blood-stained wedding dress and a knife. And you guys know me, I don't like messing with anything paranormal or anything that could be related to anything paranormal, especially after what I went through. But even back then, I just felt wrong. I told him, I'm like, you should probably turn it into the police. And I was like about 14 or 15 at the time, and I was like, you gotta do something, Dad. And instead of listening to me and like even just burying it in the backyard or something, he didn't turn it into the police, he didn't bury the dress or the knife, he decided to burn it. And like with a Ouija boards, I know you're not supposed to burn Ouija boards, but I just, with something like that, like a bloodstained wedding dress, you'd think that you would want to do whatever you can in your power to help that spirit move on if they're still attached to it. And the fact that he just burned it, just, my father is an idiot. We'll just leave it at that. I have a few theories as to what may have happened that ties all of these little experiences together. The seeing things and like interacting with things that nobody else can see. Finding the dress in the wall with the knife, and the different atmospheres or feelings in the upstairs and the downstairs. My first theory is that I honestly believe that a woman was killed in that house, probably sometime around when her wedding would have been, given that there was a blood-stained wedding dress. Then whoever killed her hid the dress and the knife in the wall, either before or after hiding her body. And here's where things get a little bit crazy, but please bear with me here. I believe that her body is in that chimney, because it would be the perfect place to hide a body because it's completely closed off and you wouldn't be able to have the horrible smells of decay or the risk of somebody like breaking into the wall and trying to demolish it and finding her body. Same with not burying her outside, because if you were to bury a body outside in the neighborhood that we live in, like the houses were really close together, it would have been a very noticeable smell. And even if it was a long time ago when the neighbors weren't so close, there's still the threat of being found. So I honestly think that her body's in that chimney. Now, I have no way of proving any of this because shortly after my dad found the dress, my family moved out of that house because I was assaulted in middle school, which is a whole different video in itself. Now, my second theory for my imaginary friend, I honestly think that maybe he or she wasn't so imaginary. Perhaps it was the spirit of the woman whose dress we found in the wall. I can't really say that for certain, but who knows? And that creepy, heavy feeling that I had upstairs, maybe it's because the crime took place up there. Or maybe it's because I was close to her body, like I theorized before. Maybe it's because she's in that chimney and it's a heavy atmosphere to be in. So, I don't know. I hate leaving questions unanswered like this, but it's interesting to think about the possibilities nonetheless. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like down below to support Madame Macabre. If you enjoyed my little weird rambling video, it's probably not making a whole lot of sense, but I'm kind of thinking I'm coming down with a cold right now, so you'll have to excuse me. If you did enjoy it, you can go and subscribe to my channel for more. I'm planning on doing kind of like a short series about crazy slash creepy experiences I've had living in different homes throughout my life. And boy, do I have a lot of stories about that. And my question for you guys is, have you had any creepy slash eerie slash crazy experiences in your childhood homes? If you did, share them down in the comments. I'd really like to hear them, and I know that Madam would like to hear them too. And I will hopefully see you guys in my next video. Bye!